Chief Incontro is reporting he can't get on.
Can you guys hear me? I'm on, I think.
Yeah, we got you, John.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Chief.
Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So good evening, San Marino City Club members and guests. Welcome to City Club's webinar event. My name is Stephen Choi, and I have the honor of serving on the City Club board. It's also my pleasure to be your webinar host, as I will be working behind the scenes for tonight's meeting. As you may know, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our City Club website. To ensure the best webinar experience for everyone, all attendees will see and hear our panel of featured speakers. However, attendees will not be using video or have the ability to unmute themselves. Attendees may submit questions anytime during the meeting by using the Q&A feature. Simply click the Q&A button, type in your question, and click submit. We have about 100 registered attendees tonight, which just about approaches our webinar capacity. So if we exceed the 100 attendee limit, additional attendees will be redirected to a YouTube live stream where they can still enjoy our program. So without further delay, here is your San Marino City Club President, Mr. Lauren Kleinrock.
Good evening. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to talk with you folks, and I am doing fine. I have gone through an interesting journey, but fortunately everything's okay right now. If I happen to get up and stand up and seem to walk away during the presentation, it's not because I don't like what's happening. It's just because I have some neuropathy in my feet left over from the chemotherapy. So it got to move them every now and then, or they start to buzz pretty good. But I'm very, very happy to be here. Ideally, I would love to be able to see folks, and that'll be coming up at some point in time. But I am looking forward to this. I want to say that actually Kelly Ryan was the first one who came up to me, didn't come up to me literally, but floated the idea of a Zoom meeting, which sounded like a great idea. And so, you know, I just do whatever Kelly tells me. And so here's our Zoom meeting. And we're looking forward to trying to keep in contact with you and present interesting content with you. We don't know, of course, when we may be able to get back into personal meetings. It's not looking real positive, quite frankly. And as you know, we've had to cancel a couple of our events already, and we're hanging on for the fall dance, but we'll see. Right now, that's looking questionable as well. So we could be doing a lot of Zoom meetings, and we will try to, as I said, bring us the regular programming we had scheduled. This one we were able to get at a late notice, and it's a timely topic. So we were happy the city would accommodate us with this. And for the upcoming ones, we're hoping to, starting with Randy Schulman in June. He was scheduled to talk at the Huntington. That's not an option, but we hope to have some meaningful things for you, and you will enjoy it. And there are certainly advantages to be able to see this in the living room, but don't get too comfortable with them, because when we're able to get back together again, that's what we're doing. So I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Steve Choi has managed to put a flag up there for me. And so when we see the flag, I'll ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance,
To the flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I have, just by the way, Steve, I have some feedback coming through. There's an echo effect. When I talk, it took a moment for the other people to be able to catch up behind me. So I don't know if we can do anything about that or not. Okay, so City Club business. We're going to try to make this meeting pretty short tonight. Not short, but we're going to try to get to the speakers having the lion's share of the time allotted. So again, first, a thank you, but not just Kelly, but the rest of the board. They took over everything for January and February, and so I was very grateful to that. And I was scheduled to come back in April, which didn't happen, but here we are in May. Steve Choi also, as our tech communications guy, and as I know well from the district communication position he has, is amazing with this stuff. And so special thanks to Steve for getting this all going tonight. So our first speakers, we would like to be able to have our mayor, Gretchen Shepherd-Romey, and our fire chief, Mario Rueda, and our police chief, John Encontro, not in that order actually, be able to talk to you for a little bit about anything they want to share with you. And our goal tonight was going to be to keep you informed of what's coming up in the city so that you will not be in the dark. So Mayor, if you would like. Can Mayor hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I heard
okay.
you. I was muting because usually that helps with the Zoom if more people are muted. We hopefully our listeners, City Club members won't get such an echo if most people have their mute on. I wanted to say good evening to everybody and thank you for this opportunity. I love the idea and it's great to see others who I haven't seen virtually. And a nice way to spend an evening and share some information with our residents that hopefully will be helpful. And I guess I'm going to speak generally about where the city is in terms of the roadmap to recovery. You probably heard that, the county and state officials. We're actually in the second phase of that, of 5 phases. And what's exciting that has happened this week is that indoor retail, so all the rest of the establishments and the ones that have been doing curbside pickup can now open. And I believe Director Cervantes will be speaking more in depth about some of this, but that they'll be open and 50% capacity. So most places there are protocols and guidelines that they will self-certify, that they've gone through this checklist from the county and that they're complying. But that kind of retail shopping is open, as well as the churches in our community. We have a lot of members who attend the various and several churches right on Huntington Drive, as you know, of many denominations, as well as on other places. And so those are also able to open. And their limit is going to be, I believe, 25% of capacity or 100 total people, depending on the building size. So again, that's something they can work with the city to determine the actual numbers, given the size and that type of thing, because it has to do with physical distancing. They're still saying, obviously, wearing masks whenever you're indoors. All these places will require that of their employees, as well as the people who are entering. And there's talk if no mask, no service. So they're really trying to push that forward. So to protect and have that, you're protecting others by wearing a mask, and hopefully that will go well and keep our numbers down. Today was unfortunately, California reported the highest number that it's ever had of new cases. So over 2,000 were reported today. So our numbers are still continuing to grow, and that might have to do with some of the earlier reopenings in other areas. LA has been more conservative and slow in trying to preserve and maintain the public health that we all worked so hard over the last 8 weeks to do. So hopefully those numbers we'll see a plateau soon, and people will act in the most responsible way with maintaining physical distance of 6 feet and wearing masks when you're outside your home around others. As well as frequent hand washing, all those things you've heard now for weeks on end. I don't need to remind you about that. Also, I have some information which I think is hot off the press, that Huntington is going to be opening in the next few weeks in the gardens, and they are going to be opening to members first, and at about 1/3 of their regular capacity is what they're thinking about. Obviously, they're working with our city manager, emergency director, as well as the chiefs and the county to ensure that they've done everything they need to do. I believe there'll be temperature taking, and everybody who enters is required to have a timed ticket. So it will be very specific. And then, of course, staff will start coming back, and volunteers also in limited numbers during the day. So that will be a wonderful thing for people to have, but I do expect, as I think we talked about Eaton Canyon, there will be a lot of people that will probably show up those first few days thinking they could just walk in as a member, and there will be no open entry, let's say. Everything's going to be timed and dated, and you will have to come with that reservation and scan it. And there will be a person screening for temperature. Anybody over 100 will be sent home. And then there's obviously going to be social distancing, mask required, things like that. and it will be the gardens that will open first, except not the children's or the botanical conservatory. So anyway, that's pretty exciting. So hopefully we'll have a date about that we will be able to get out to you as soon as they've got everybody on board with the plans and have all what they need in place. And so that's coming up as well, and that's in our community. I think, as you know, there'll be, you might have heard if you joined the conversation, there won't be 4th of July celebrations as normal, given the size and the crowding. So we've, a staff has developed and council has come forward with an idea to kind of have some other things to encourage community involvements, like a patriotic house decoration contest where people will get to decorate their homes and register as being in the contest, and that we will try to do some things like that because people are out and about in the community. I live on a fairly busy street, and I'm just always amazed. It is wonderful to have so many people walking and biking and skating and scootering, and more dog walks than I ever have seen before. So they will be able to walk by decorated homes, and that will be part of the celebration. There's also chalk art that's going to be available for families to have also some that, and there's going to be some judging of the children's red, white, and blue art, chalk art on the sidewalks and streets and things like that. Sidewalks, I should say, driveways, not street. So there are good things that we're planning and trying to keep the community involved. And I guess I could turn it over to the chiefs who also have more information for you.
Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. This is John Incontro, your police chief. Want to talk about a few things. One, a little bit about what we have done regarding the enforcement of the Department of public health orders, and then a little bit about what's going on crime-wise in the city. First of all, regarding to public health orders, our goal is to educate and inform, provide you with a mask when we see it. And we really want to work hard for compliance. And I must thank the residents, the community of San Marino for working with us and doing everything we can to make people, ensure that people are safe. The rule is if you're within 6 feet, you can't maintain social or physical distancing, you put on a face covering. And we understand, and there's lots of research that just that small little act of kindness and thoughtfulness of your fellow humans is going to keep us all from being sick and spreading the virus. The other thing I'd like to mention is today we had a parade for the people promoting from Huntington Middle School, and then the graduates of Valentine this morning, and then also yesterday from Carver. And I really want to take a moment to applaud the staff from each one of the schools, Dr. Lynn from Carver, Alana Ferre from the middle school, soon to be the Valentine principal, Colleen Shields, Daryl Topalian, and all the staff, including the superintendent and the rest of the staff at the school district, for really working hard with the city, with the mayor, with the city council, and ensuring that all our students are having an outstanding opportunity to celebrate the best we can. We've been working with the high school. The students there want to wait. They think may be possible to have a in-person graduation. I'm crossing my fingers with them, hoping something like that would happen. We will see if it does. And we will be working together to make sure we have a great time and a safe and healthy time. Regarding crime in the city and other safety issues, we pretty much quickly on notice an increase in speed on Huntington, Sierra Madre, Lorraine, and some other streets. So we've ticked up our enforcement. We've been writing a few more tickets, several more tickets. But initially, our officers, like you, we were unsure of what was going to happen with the virus, how susceptible it was. The officers are thinking about themselves, are thinking about their families. And we kind of backed off a little bit on traffic enforcement. But since we want to make sure everyone's safe, we've picked it up quite a bit, and we are writing more tickets. Please, 40 miles an hour in Huntington, and be careful and make sure on those side streets and on Lorraine that you're following the posted speed limit. We have so many people, as Mayor Shepherd-Romney mentioned, that are out about walking their dogs, walking with their kids, children in strollers. A beautiful sight, but we want to make sure people are safe. The other thing we've noticed is we've had an uptick in commercial burglaries. When business owners are away, they are locking their doors and not there all the time. So the traffic of customers and of business owners isn't there. So unfortunately, some of these folks want to prey on the opportunity to commit a burglary. And we've had an increase of about 7 burglaries, commercial burglaries in town. We've had some good leads, and please make sure you've got an opportunity to lock your businesses, have alarms. If you have camera systems, so much the better. Report suspicious people. Let us know what's going on, what's out of the ordinary. The other areas that we've had is an increase in thefts, especially vehicle thefts. And surprisingly, vehicle thefts across the country, not just here, but across the country, have just skyrocketed. We're working on that within the Los Angeles County Chiefs Association, trying to figure it out. We're exchanging information. But right now, it just seems like it's happening. Part of the problem is people are leaving keys in their cars, or leaving their cars that are unlocked with some way of getting into the car and driving away. So we need you to make sure you're extra careful. Also, we want you to be aware of anyone that you don't recognize in the neighborhood. Give us a call. We've seen a decrease in the number of calls from the community, so please be a little more mindful. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And together, we can get through this, and we can make sure we continue to make this a safe community. And I truly want to express a great bit of thanks to the residents and business owners who have sent us food, who have sent us cakes. My pants are having a little trouble closing sometimes because of all the good food. But to those other businesses that have donated gowns, masks, gloves, goggles, thank you. You're saving the lives of the officers. You're saving the lives of the community. And for that, I truly appreciate everything you're doing. That's all I have, and available for questions, obviously, at the right time. Thank you very much, Lauren, and good to see you. You're looking great.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Lauren. Hope you can hear me. It's the one downside of these Zooms, you don't get the audience feedback. But I wanted to go back in ancient history and just share with you a little bit about our city's response. Because early on, both the city staff and our mayor jumped in with both feet, and we sent out our first public communication to the community about the novel coronavirus back on January 24th. I know the mayor was on a number of conference calls, as was I, as was our city manager, and that led to a March 4th activation of our Emergency Operations Center, which was really a commitment to, we're not going to get behind, and we're going to put our processes, our plans in place. And if you recall, back in the beginning of March, this wasn't the same fear and certainly not the number of cases or deaths that we're seeing now. That was still, this is going to be like the flu. I can certainly tell you it is not the flu, and I'll share a little bit about what some of our responses have led to. Our city council acted to declare a local emergency on March 17th, and that really allows the city to recover funding that we're spending here to protect our city. So seems like ancient history today because of the novelty of this virus. It has changed our response so many times, both the PPE requirements, what we look for in patients, the community spread, the rules that public health has put us under. Our city can make more stringent rules, but our minimum, our floor level rules are based on what our LA County Department of Public Health provides to us. So it seems like ancient history today because it's changed so many times. But the reason I say it, I want you to be assured your city, public safety, your electeds and your staff were looking out for the safety of our residents. One of the things I did want to chat about tonight was one of the early efforts was to ensure our residents were well informed, and we really wanted to make sure that the city website was the one place for accurate, reliable, timely information residents could go to for information. We have a direct mailer, a direct email each week, and you can sign up for that on our website. And that provides you information each week on a Thursday about what actions our city's taken and what the public health orders may mean, what city business offices are open, and what other services you can get. The website gets updated daily. We also have, if you haven't noticed, each one of our council members and a number of our city leadership has gone on the website and produced videos to provide information. They've been very popular. We've received nothing but positive feedback on a quick way to get information about what's happening in our city. Lastly, the texting with the COVID SMS platform. If you go on our website and you text 91108 to 888-414-5539, you will get a daily text about what's happening in our city with respect to coronavirus cases. You'll also get special updates. So you don't need, it's really helpful. You don't have to go to a website. It is provided to you. Our city manager, our mayor, our community engagement manager, Amanda, have really done a great job spearheading this communications effort, and it's really proved to be a fruitful effort. I did want to talk a little bit about response, because I've had people, even within my own family, talk about this being the flu. And I can share with you, it is not. I know our firefighters and our police officers have encountered very, very sick people in our community. And I can tell you there's a great deal of anxiety when they go to treat them, but they've stepped up. They're real pros. They're doing a good job. They're making sure people get treated. They're taking the appropriate precautions, but make no mistake, we have had some very sick people in our community, and we got them to the hospital. Last issue I just wanted to touch on is testing. If you go on our website, if you desire, certainly if you have symptoms, you desire a test, you can go on our website. The Rose Bowl's last day is tomorrow, but there are other test sites nearby. Probably the most convenient is going to be Dodger Stadium for most people. It's very quick to get in and out of that testing site because it's a high volume. But you can go on our website and get information about securing a test if you desire. If you're asymptomatic and would like a test, they'll take you. You don't have to have symptoms. You don't have to be high risk. Anybody can get a test nowadays. And I just wanted to echo Chief Incontro's comments about our residents being thoughtful to one another. We had an issue with the stairs at Lacey Park, and once we put signs up, people treated each other with courtesy, put signs up, put masks on. They're going the right way in Lacey Park on the paths. Done a great job, and as Chief Incontro mentioned, we've received a number of donations, and we're very thankful for that. So I think all of us are available for questions if you have any. And I thank you, Lauren, for the opportunity to speak.
Chief
My
Rueda,
pleasure, guys.
we do have one question about what was that number to get those text messages?
That number is you text 91108 to 888-414-5539. And that's on our website also.
Thank you.
Can I add one other number, which may be easier a tad? We have the resident support hotline. I forgot to mention, but some of our staff members are manning that every day. It's to help either get information to people, also to assist if there's a need for delivery of food or pickup of medicine, those type of things, even masks. If people are not going out but really staying at home, we could bring those so that people would be comfortable even walking outside at the park or something. So there is an easy number. And also it's a way to get, if you have a specific inquiry, then it can be directed to the appropriate person. So staff members are there, and it's open during business hours, but there's also an answering machine, so to speak, on the line, so you can leave your question or your concern, and it will be attended to at the next business day. And so it's a resident hotline, and that number is 300-0731. And it's active all the time. It's been a great resource for many. So again, 300-0731. And even to get on this Nixle, somebody can walk you through with your phone in hand, or get access to some of the more specific information that Director Cervantes will provide as well later, and all the myriad of city services that we have right now. So I would write that down and share it with somebody who you know who might be alone or mostly staying at home or exclusively because of health conditions, and let them know that we have a support system in place to help them. Thank you.
And that was on the front page of the Tribune too, by the way. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate sharing that information, and we will look forward to seeing what else we can do to help the city work with us. Okay, so we want to make sure that our speakers had the time that they needed, but we do have some club business. Those of you that are members and been members for a while know that we start our meetings typically with the club business. So very quickly, May is typically the month whereby our bylaws, we are supposed to, let's see, all I'm seeing, I don't know if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, all I'm seeing is a slide, but at any rate, there we go. At any rate, our calendars got knocked off a little bit because of our lack of having in-person meetings. But tonight, we will provide you with the information required to provide you on how the nominating process works. Basically, the 220 nominating committee does the selection for people to be officers. It's not the selection, but actually it provides a slate of people to be nominated or voted on for the 21-22 and 22-23 school years. Calendar years. Been doing the school years for a while. So in accordance with that, we have by bylaws, we have the president, which is the chair. We have the first vice president. We have the past 4 successive presidents. And we also have 4 at-large members, which we need to round up. And so that's where y'all come in. We will make this information more available to you in a separate constant contact I'll ask Steve Choi to send out. But because of the change in our timing, anyone who's interested in serving as an at-large member needs to send me their name, email me their name, and my email is lkleinrock@gmail.com. But again, Steve will get that information out to you. And then we are probably going to meet sometime as a committee. We'll choose a committee by June 14th and meet sometime as the committee, either June 18th or June 22nd, I think are the 2 days, depending on who can make which dates. And so then we will present to you down the road in September a slate for your approval. There are write-in nominations possible. It requires a petition with 10 signatures. We'll get you out more information on that. But that's essentially what the nomination process is all about. We also have, our social committee has been active. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, Calvin Lowe is our chairperson there, but Calvin Lowe has been responsible for most of the time of having to get events canceled when the venues were not open. But we're still in play on our fall ball location in Nor. Quite frankly, we are doubtful we will be able to have that fall ball this year, but we are not making a decision yet. And so Calvin's going to give you an update on where we are on that event. Calvin?
Yes, hi.
Oh.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Lauren. So first of all, hope all is well with everyone during this unprecedented times. And I'll give quick updates on, of course, our two major social events. And as everybody know, our summer fiesta is canceled because Omeo will remain closed in June. They will be open virtually, so we can always have our virtual summer fiesta by looking at the beautiful, Omeo website online and have a cocktail at the comfort of in your own backyard. That you can do it all anytime. So, and as for our fall ball, well, it was originally scheduled in September 11th, and we were gonna have our food tasting meal tasting in July 1st. But because Los Angeles County just extended safe at home order till end of July, so that is postponed to August at this point. And we were told by the staff at NOR that they have been practicing the recommendations from our government for cleaning, sanitizing, and even measuring temperatures of all their employees, and they will remain the same even after county reopens all businesses. And so the fall ball may or may not happen depending on the future development of this pandemic, and we will be in contact with the personnel at NOR, and we'll have discussion with them in August, and we'll be carefully evaluate all the situations, and we'll provide more updates to everyone in August. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, Calvin, thank you very much. Appreciate that a lot. Calvin's done a good job. He had to jump in on this and play catch up, and he's doing great. So thank you. The last piece I have is, I mentioned it earlier, but in case you were not yet on, June 16th will be our next meeting, virtual meeting, and Randy Schulman from the Huntington will do a slide presentation on what he was going to do in person for us, but he's able to adapt it to our virtual process. And so got some new information about the Huntington that you probably will want to hear. And so we will get you that out again as soon as it is timely. And now to our featured speaker. So I'm happy tonight, our featured speaker is Aldo Cervantes, the Building and Planning Director for the City of San Marino. Aldo will be presenting the City of San Marino's new economic development process, including changes to that process caused by the COVID-19 virus. We'll discuss the City of San Marino's economic development program. I imagine you're interested in that. It'll include relationship banking, branding, marketing, analytic research, outreach programs, incentives for businesses, and the main strategy, which is to attract and support businesses desired by the community. Aldo started with the City of San Marino in 2004 as an assistant planner. Over the more than 16 years with the city, he was promoted several times, eventually becoming the senior planner in 2015, and he was appointed the planning and building director. Prior to working for San Marino, Aldo was a planner for Montebello and for Cerritos. He received his bachelor's degree in urban planning from Cal Poly Pomona back in 2003. And in 2009, he received a master's in public administration from Cal State Fullerton. Most importantly, probably, he's married to Melissa Cervantes. They have two great children, Alexander 7 and Noel 3. And so, Aldo, it's your show.
All right, appreciate it. I do want to thank everyone and good evening for this opportunity. It is an honor to be in front of all you at the City Club meeting. And I appreciate making the time for me to discuss this venture That is very exciting for me, and of course, very exciting for the city as well. So I'd like to share my screen. Let's make sure let's hope it all works. Here we go. Okay. Can everyone see the slide on the screen?
We see your slide.
Great, perfect. All right, so as Lauren had mentioned, I've been with the city for the last 16 years, kind of worked my way up from various positions. And in the last 16 years, I can honestly say that I've seen a lot of changes in the city. I've seen a lot of progression in the city. And so this has been a great joy to of course, be your planner for the last 16 years. So I'll go ahead and get going on this. Of course, the topic is economic development, and sort of this very infant program that we have with the city. And so we are learning as we go, but it's been a pleasure having to run this division for the last year or so. And so some of the content that we'll be discussing today, in addition to COVID, I'll sort of end with that note. But what is economic development? Of course, we had to first start the program with understanding who our community members are and what they need. What are the businesses looking for, the type of restaurants, what type of retail stores are they looking for? We had to dive into that. Economic development opportunities, of course, building relationships amongst the community members and of course the consumers. Marketing the community, as well as of course having to pivot with respect to COVID-19. And so what is economic development? Economic development is about creating places where people want to invest, work, and live. It's about making connections with people, companies, institutions, and communities. And so in the last year of the program, I've learned that a relationship is key to any successful economic development program. And these relationships that we build, of course, are with the tenants, potential tenants, as well as landowners. Another key component to economic development, as I've learned in the last year, are analytics, which is we'll be going over soon in the next couple of slides. The bottom line is that economic development has very little science to it. It's really understanding the demographics of the community, looking at the built environment and understanding what the constraints are, and as well as the challenges and obstacles, and having the key analytics to help move the program forward. And so knowing the community, part of the initial steps that we took before starting this program was surrounding ourselves and this program with key stakeholders. And I want to take this opportunity to identify who those stakeholders are and what I call our economic development team. They include Vice Mayor Ken Udy, Council Member Susan Jacobowski, and business owners Isaac Hung, Nancy White, Karina Medilian, Linda Zendoyan, Kelly Karpiak, Christina Fu, and Shelley Boyle. And during our first initial meetings, and by the way, we meet every couple of weeks to go over strategies and really bounce ideas back and forth with each other. The priority that was set at the very beginning of this process was really to, as I mentioned, understand the community and to answer the questions that are up on your screen now. And that is, what are those key demographics? What amenities are we missing for our residents? What types of businesses fit our community? And also, is our commercial area in need of revitalization? The common goal here throughout this entire process from day one has been to look at the idea of developing a neighborhood commercial area where mom and pop stores will thrive, as well as one of the key components is making our community walkable. And some of those key demographics include, our research include the median age that we found was 45 years. Household income is a little less than $230,000, and the population with a college degree is just under 60%. These are what investors, potential businesses look for when they perform their own research on a potential location in a city. These are sort of the key components in any business out there, whether it's a Nordstrom or Target or a mom and pop store. They will look at these key demographics before entering into any conversations about lease agreements or even looking at potential sites. Some additional standard demographics that we were able to find as well include, of course, ownership information and some race information. Do pay attention to sort of the comparison between San Marino and LA County. One of the things that popped out to me, of course, is the owner occupancy of our city at just under 91%, whereas as a county is under 50%. What that shows to any person reading these demographics is that there's a certain level of stability in the city. And with that comes an expectation of a sense of community when you have a large amount of owner occupancy. And so what are retailers looking for? In addition to the demographics, of course, our recently completed analytics study for our city show that a greater population fall under what is considered to be top wealth as well as affluent households. According to those analytics, individuals who fit under the established elite category will more than likely spend their money at businesses such as Nordstrom's or Trader Joe's. Under the affluent household category, the consumer will likely spend their money on businesses such as like an Apple store or a Whole Foods market. In addition, the population, these two populations will find that outdoor activity is a high priority. In addition to, of course, books, i.e. bookstores, as well as dining out. Now, again, on the flip side of that information, retailers such as the ones that are on the screen, of course, Trader Joe's, Nordstrom's, and the Whole Food markets, they look at similar analytics, again, before they decide to invest in a community. And so some of the economic development opportunities that we found, again, through the various studies that we've gone through, they show where the money is located. They show where the consumer demand is also going. The consumer demand, according to our research, shows that these types of businesses that are on the screen now are in demand for our residents. Although we have a few restaurants in town, we do have a few clothing stores in town as well, we are missing out on not only the high demand amenities such as, for example, a grocery store that you see on the screen, but we're also missing out on the financial opportunities that we'll show you in the next slide of this presentation. And apologize for the blurriness of this slide, but it does show a couple of funding sources here. And this table not only shows the top businesses that are in demand for our residents, it also shows the financial consumer demand and the market supply in town. The market supply showing up as a 0 at the very top of the screen is known as economic spillage. For example, the consumer in town is spending approximately $25 million in groceries, but due to the fact that we do not have a grocery store in town, we are not only seeing the loss of the potential gain or benefit, but we're also, of course, losing out on a very key amenity for our residents. And so what this slide allows us to do in terms of looking at the dollar amounts, it gives us a target for identifying the types of businesses that our consumers want to see in town. Of course, on the city's side, we'll see not only those amenities being out there, but we'll also be able to gain financially through sales tax funds. And of course, we have to recognize that there are opportunities and challenges that we face with this program. Of course, as I mentioned at the very beginning, This is a very infant program. It's been out for about a year. We're going into year 2, and a lot of what we're doing is learning as we go. So some of the opportunities that, of course, we are seeing is that we're in prime location. There's existing incentive programs that we've have implemented in the last year, including fee waivers for new businesses. We also incorporated a facade improvement program. Although it did start off as a pilot program, we're hoping that we can continue on with that program. And essentially what it is, it provides funding from the city to a business owner or tenant who's looking to revitalize their storefronts. And we're talking about replacement of windows, we're talking about painting the facade, replacing awnings, possibly looking at murals, some kind of other architectural elements that could be incorporated into the main structure. We do need to take full advantage of these opportunities and face the challenges. One of the challenges that we're facing and really is becoming an opportunity is looking at branding and marketing for the next couple of years, as well as developing a downtown feel. And a lot of that comes with where exactly do we want to pinpoint where our downtown is going to be located. And so throughout the years, I've learned that location is key. In the current world of retail, I think size is also a factor. I went to a seminar a few years ago at from a retail convention, and one of the topics was about retail. And one of the things that did hit me that I agree with is that retail is not dead, boring retail is. And so the brick and mortar business solution to sort of the e-commerce, Amazon type of services is really trying to reinvent the sense of place, as well as creating an experience for the consumer. Retailers are focusing more on creating that experience rather than only focusing on displaying products. This is more evident with the growing trend in large marketplaces. You have mess halls as well as shared retail spaces where the consumer will not only find the product that they're looking for, but they'll also find other amenities that are within reach, such as food products, coffee, and as well as a social experience. Traditional retail is really not realistic for the city and for this community. We need to look for innovation and out-of-the-box retail, because that is where we will thrive as a community. We don't have the benefits of large commercial parcels that can sustain a large development, just as the slide is showing on the left-hand side. We have to really focus on trying to revitalize, sustain, and reuse a lot of the existing infrastructure and commercial buildings that we have now, and trying to figure out what best fits these existing structures. And one prime example of innovation, I guess, in the last couple of years is you see on the slide, on the left-hand side, you see a very traditional Nordstrom, likely attached to a major shopping center. Well, in light of sort of the big box strategy going away, they have now pivoted to a smaller scale, service-oriented type of business, and they call themselves Nordstrom Local. And we've been after them for the last year or so. They only need about 3,000 square feet, for example. It's a very small unit, really focusing on online sales. There's this very small retail component. They provide services, which is a giant piece of their sort of game plan. For example, you can order a suit and get it delivered to a Nordstrom Local, and you can have it fitted at that location. So the idea here is that this is a very innovative type of business that had to pivot away from the large scale, massive big box idea to a very small service oriented type of business. And these are the types of businesses that we think will thrive in this community. Some of the other images that are on the screen on the right-hand side show very small level grocery type stores, markets. And so these are certainly on the rise, and we can take full advantage of sort of this trend in retail. And so surprisingly enough, we have in the last year have approached a variety of different types of businesses, from Portos uh, to sort of Target. Not for the sake of saying, okay, these are realistic businesses that are going to come into town. We know that it's an uphill battle to try to bring in folks like that. But those types of businesses are, again, going back to having our pulse on the market, they're looking to pivot very soon to very smaller scale type of projects where Portals could certainly become just a bakery. And of course, we've all seen Target sort of downscale to a very express mode type of business. And so again, we are not trying to go after these businesses for the sake of trying to get them in, because we know it's not reality at this point. But what we're doing is we're trying to understand the lingo of economic development, what type of terms or terminology is being used in the market. And so we have a laundry list of businesses that we've reached out to. I want to say about 5 pages long, but really for the sake of just kind of learning how things develop and how things move along. And so what is the role of an economic development staff? Some of the 3 major pieces, of course, is building relationships between property owners, tenants, and developers, making those connections and maintaining those connections. We want to make sure that in any kind of conversation or any kind of relationship that we look to build, that we maintain that relationship. And of course, we facilitate discussions. Our main responsibility with sort of filling the vacancies that we have is connecting a potential tenant to a property owner and letting them get to the table to negotiate terms of a lease. And we stay alongside the conversations to make sure they don't fall off the table and that they sort of keep momentum moving forward. That's a huge piece of what we do as staff. And so at this point of our economic development program, we've established a variety of priorities. We've built those relationships. As I mentioned, we have our fingers on the pulse of this market. We've met certain goals. We've developed certain incentive programs. We've obtained key data information. We're sort of learning as we go, as I mentioned. And so now we set our sights to the future, of course. Staff hopes that year 2 of the program, we begin to look at new ways of marketing and branding opportunities and an ability to invest in our infrastructure along Mission Street, as well as Huntington Drive. And this future goal consists of really beautification type projects for our commercial areas. This can include landscape features, landscape buffers, outdoor seating opportunities, parking opportunities. We'll be discussing signage very soon, what they call wayfinding signage, as well as sidewalk improvements. And of course, the objective with that kind of a project and program is aimed towards beautification and, of course, as I mentioned early on, developing a walkable community. And then, of course, COVID hits and we sort of have to pivot ourselves to a different direction. We had to really put our goals and objectives aside and really become the one-stop shop for our local businesses. They had been reliant on us to provide them with updates from state and the public health departments. And we've done so with communication that has gone out electronically and also by mail. Every time the county sends out a new update, we're on top of that level of communication. And so we've also created early on when this crisis hit, we made it a priority to develop a list of businesses that were open. In that case, at that time, were restaurants, curbside pickup only. And so the list was developed, and of course, we distributed that list to various social media sites, including our own, as well as our own website. As we got deeper into the crisis, the city purchased a variety of signs that were aimed towards the curbside pickup model. Of course, now we're certainly past that. These signs, as soon as we purchased and obtained them, we spread them out into the business community for them to use. We're also in the process of purchasing new signs to help with the new order, which is a reopening type process. And I did receive word today that those signs are ready for me to pick up as soon as I can get back. And as soon as I can get back, I will be looking to, or hopefully sooner, I will be distributing those signs. That way the business community can now start seeing sort of a marketing strategy for reopening some of these businesses. And of course, we're using social media to our advantage. Early on, again, we jumped on what was known, if anyone has seen this, the Great American Takeout campaign. And we used that campaign through social media and the website to remind the community that the businesses are in need and certainly can use a helping hand during this process. And so during, again, we've become sort of having to pivot into a resource type of a program. We've had to revamp our website to be more of a resource-oriented type of website. And of course, there's a variety of different resources that we've provided. Here's one as far as health resources that are available to our businesses. We've done a very good job in keeping up with policy changes, and we have links on our website that provide the residents and anyone interested in terms of state, county, city, and federal information related to orders or any information related to the COVID-19 crisis. And again, just some additional resources that we provided to our businesses. And we provided that information to the businesses via what I'm proud of is a marketing class that we put together a couple of weeks ago with the help of Shelley Boyle, which is a local resident, as well as part of the economic development team, as well as a planning commissioner, helped us host a marketing class that was aimed to promote social media as a tool. And of course, during the class, she was able to guide businesses on how to use social media, how to create photography that really catches the eye of the consumer. Along with her presentation, the staff had a very small piece at the very end because we didn't want to overshadow the marketing class. But we presented to the local businesses who had joined us in that meeting the variety of small business loans that are out there, how to apply for these loans, where to get resources, how to find certain information, what phone numbers to contact, that sort of thing. And so that was very helpful for a lot of the businesses, and certainly a lot of them took advantage of that process. And so everything that I have presented today or this evening has been on our website for anyone to look at, including our analytic studies, mapping services, resources, that kind of thing. And so one of the messages that I gave to our economic development team at the very beginning was be transparent with the program. Let everyone know what we're doing. That way we can gain momentum. And so using that as a guide point, we've sort of took that direction, and we wanted to make sure that whatever we had developed in terms of classes, information, and resources is going to be available to anyone who wants that information. And so with that said, I thank you, and there is my contact information. That's me at the top. And I do want to give a shout out to Stephanie Britt. She is our administrative analyst who really helps me a great deal. She did develop our economic development website and has got a great deal of insight and has helped me out tremendously. And so at this point, I open for questions.
All right, thank you, Aldo. We have 3 questions so far. So for those that are joining us as attendees, if you'd like to submit questions, go ahead and click the Q&A button on your screen, and you can go ahead and type in your question there. So the first question we have is from Marianne. What are the top 2 best suburbs in the LA area?
Oh yeah. So we ranked amongst the top three. And I guess it doesn't matter who the other two are, right? The answer to the question is I don't know who 1 and 2 is. I can tell you that right now. But one of the key takeaways is, of course, is we do rank number 3 in terms of best places to raise a family.
Great. Another question from David is, please give examples of out-of-the-box retail.
Yeah, so one of the examples I gave that is very fresh in our minds, of course, is the Nordstrom concept. Of course, they're pivoting away from the big box retail and going to a very smaller scale type of business. And they, of course, they call themselves Nordstrom Local. I did again already mention that as an example. There are a variety of different types of businesses. I mentioned the shared arrangements, and we see a lot of shared kind of not co-living, but a co-shared retail space, where if you were to walk into a very large space, you'll notice that it's been revitalized, reused, and repurposed to have multiple tenants inside that single space. And you can walk inside what's called a market, I guess, at this point, and really see a vast amounts of different types of products, retail, coffee shops, markets, that sort of thing.
Great. Next question is, isn't there a conflict between making San Marino a walkable community and the expansion/modification of Huntington Drive?
Yes, so the key, again, as I mentioned before, the aim here is neighborhood commercial. We want mom and pop stores to thrive. And yes, one of the key components here is making the community walkable. And when I mention sort of beautification projects, those are not aimed to increase traffic. They're not aimed to, or they're really aimed to increase exposure to the businesses. We're looking at how we can sort of connect certain residential areas to commercial areas, and of course that takes possibly some beautification signage type programs. We're not looking to expand in a way that other cities are expanding. One key example is, we're not Pasadena, we're not South Pass, where we're looking at large scale, multi-density type development projects. As I mentioned, the goal here is revitalization, reuse, sustainability of what we have right now, because there are a lot of jewels, I guess, to say the least, with respect to our commercial buildings, and a lot of them, quite frankly, are very durable and can be very easily reused and repurposed to whatever a retailer is looking for.
Great. Next one is, what specific ideas are being discussed to revitalize the retail environment along Huntington Drive?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and we started that revitalization effort with our facade improvement program. Although this started as a pilot, we're looking to expand that in next fiscal year. And that's sort of the launching point to being able to provide some kind of incentives for our business community to really take on projects themselves. Of course, we help them with a small amount of funding, but help them sort of revitalize their buildings if needed, of course. A lot of the revitalization is really going to take place with respect to the infrastructure. Looking at sidewalks, as I mentioned, landscaping, possibly outdoor seating opportunities. Again, when someone uses the word revitalize a retail environment, we're not talking about large-scale multi-density projects. We're talking about still the mom and pop driven type of revitalization projects.
Great. Next question is, what is going on with the Women's World Building or Women World Building?
So the Women's World Building started off as a couple of years ago. They presented a project to the city for a shared type of market, and they wanted to they essentially wanted to gut the entire interior of the space and create what I mentioned as that shared kind of environment. That did not go through, and so the owner sort of had to redirect his efforts to essentially revitalizing that building. And doing so, there was an application that was approved to split the building into 4 tenants. As we all know, that the long-term tenant at that point was the gym owned by Frank Matrenga, and so he of course is no longer part of the project. But there is as I mentioned, 4 commercial tenants, 2 of which have been filled. One of them will be refilled with Fresh Gourmet, and another will be filled by another gym. We all know what Fresh Gourmet provides, and they'll be going into a freshly brand new developed unit.
Great. Next question is, have there been any successes in attracting new businesses?
Not at this point. We did come very close to bringing a relationship together amongst a potential tenant and a property owner. Unfortunately, finances didn't work in the case of the tenant, although the property owner did provide a vast amounts of incentives, a free rent for the next 3 months, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, the tenant, who had a prior shop in another location, just couldn't pencil out the move. And so we have not had that opportunity to say that we've been successful in bringing in a fresh tenant here, I guess.
Okay. Next one is, why do remodels on Huntington Drive South Side take so long to finish? Seems most are eyesores for month after month.
Yeah, and of course the COVID crisis isn't helping enough, but I know that a lot of them have been in their current state well past or well before COVID. There's from my perspective, there hasn't been a sort of dragging their feet situation with the property owners or the tenants. What's happening is that materials are taking longer to get, i.e. maybe windows, doors, certain other types of materials, because they are not being manufactured in a sort of a larger efficient pace. It is taking up a lot more time to get materials and supplies.
Great. Next question is, any new businesses coming to town in the next 6 months?
Well, like I mentioned, Fresh Gourmet is coming back. There is a gym also coming back not coming back, but locating at that at the Bedford and Huntington property site. I can tell you that Starbucks signed a 10-year lease, so they're not going anywhere soon. We are working with the property owner for the newly constructed building on Mission to look to provide him with a tenant for the 2 units that are available there. And so this is sort of an ongoing process. We reach out to property owners who have vacancies, and we look to provide them with some ideas as to the type of tenants that will certainly fit. But right now it's just kind of a situation where things are moving a little slowly right now, but right now we don't have anyone moving in aside from what I just mentioned.
Okay, next question is, have any businesses taken advantage of facade improvement grant program?
We had an applicant who had picked up the application and was very interested in a facade program. Unfortunately, they didn't return, and so right now we are hoping that with the new budget coming around the corner, that we could sustain the program and look to marketing it a little bit better. That way it gets out to the community more efficiently.
Okay, looks like we have 3 more questions here. Have you considered high-end bar or restaurants for the city?
That is a tricky one. That in the last 16 years that I've been here, I've had one person come to my counter begging for a bar on Mission. This was a while back, and of course we had sort of stringent laws at that point, and we couldn't make that happen. Not that I tried to make that happen. I know realistically we have a lot of I'll say this is a very conservative town, and I think that would have been a very uphill battle for us. I will say that recently, the Planning Commission was presented with 3 requests for alcohol sales. And so I will say that the San Marino Cafe on Mission did receive their approval to be able to serve beer and wine. Fresh Gourmet also received that same approval to be able, as soon as they open, they'll be able to serve beer and wine. Any other tenant that occupies that Bedford and Huntington property will, if it's a restaurant, will also be allowed to serve beer and wine.
Great. There's a
One of
couple
the, I do want to mention that we are still after a potential restaurant that does have a bar component to it, and we were pretty steady in going after them, and things look very promising for us. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and they had to sort of look at their finances and decide that it wasn't a good time for them. But I will say this, that part of the economic development strategy is sort of being that pest, for lack of a better word, to these potential tenants, staying on top of things, making sure we reach out to them, make sure that they know that we're still here.
Okay, and second to last is, have you studied current ground floor retail space that is now or will be available in the near future?
Not right now. Of course, I have some ideas with looking at filling a couple of gaps in our commercial corridor. I don't want to divulge too much because it is sort of it's sort of a game plan that we have that we like to move forward. They're very much pie in the sky. I'm not going to say that they're realistic at this point, but right now, as I mentioned, we're going into year 2 of the program. And year 2 of the program is looking to develop investment strategies into our infrastructure. Like I mentioned, the landscaping, the signage, that kind of thing. And so year 2 is going to be dedicated to a lot of that sort of investment type of strategy. Year 2 is when you can start seeing some of the benefits to what you've done in year 1 and 2.
Great. Well, a couple more questions popped up, and I kind of want to check with Mr. Kleinrock to see how we're doing on time.
He's on mute.
Yeah, let me go ahead and unmute. Go ahead and unmute there.
Okay, we'll try it again. Just checking to see if the mute button worked, and it does. Yeah, we have time for a couple more questions, and I'll have one more piece of club business I'd like to do shortly, very short one before we adjourn, but go for the couple of questions.
Okay, what about the former San Marino Book and Toy Building, which has been vacant for quite some time?
Yeah, that one's sort of been an anomaly to us because it's been vacant, as everyone knows, for a long period of time. I've been in communication with the broker of that property, and I will say that there is, as soon as we get out of the COVID situation, and of course anyone's guess is when that's going to happen, there is a high potential for someone to swoop in and grab that space, and that's something that I know of. We've been reaching out to a potential tenant for that space, and I do have high hopes as soon as we're over this.
Okay, and this one, I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'll go ahead and read it. Isn't the insulin business a new business or tenant?
It is. It took over what was formerly a Blockbuster building, and yeah, they're currently remodeling their site to bring in a medical type of business. I will say this, that the types of businesses that we're looking to go after is really utilizing the strategy that I just mentioned. We have those certain businesses that our consumers look to shop at. And so, of course, if you take a look at that list, none of them includes medical. And yes, they are a new business coming in. Yes, they are a medical business, but they're not the type of business, and I hate to say this, but they're not the type of business that we want to reach out to bring in, because according to our studies, they're not the type of business that our consumers want to see.
Okay, and what is the status of Colonial Kitchen? There has been a lot of talk about changes or refurbishment.
There's been a lot of, yeah, there's been a lot of rumors swirling around, and I've had a number of folks call me, developers call me, who've been looking to, for example, wanted to scrape the property and rebuild the two-story building there. That never happened. That never went forward. The owner there has been wanting to sell the property. As everyone notices, it's been up for sale for quite a while. We've had a number of potential business owners wanting to come in and take over. We've had some who want to come in and completely revamp the restaurant, change the menu, and completely redo and modernize it. None of them have sort of flourished at this point, but we'll see as soon as this crisis is over. Maybe something can certainly pop up.
Okay, are there any promising potential businesses for the new building on Mission Street?
There are some potential businesses that may occupy that tenant, but unfortunately, because of sort of how the operations work in terms of negotiations, I really can't divulge as to who wants to go in there, because again, those are conditions that do want to remain private amongst the potential tenant and the owner. The only thing I can say is that there's a high potential of an existing business on Mission that could move and take over that spot.
Okay, and this is sort of a comment / question. Starbucks had to get variance. Are we willing to bring in big businesses and hurt the mom and pops we have now?
Well, of course, in the 90s is when Starbucks came around. 90s is when Starbucks received that variance. And I will say this, that it was one of those situations where, you know, Starbucks had an uphill battle. Of course, I wasn't here at the time. I had to get my history from the staff reports. But the information that I've obtained is that Starbucks had an uphill battle to get that variance alone. And the variance had to do with the parking issue. A restaurant such as Starbucks requires a large amount of parking spaces, and of course, it didn't meet that. Right now, we're not saying that we're going to go after large retailers like Starbucks. I say this right now, a lot of the businesses that we've reached out to, that we've had communications with, are very small mom and pop type stores.
Okay, and the last question is, are there penalties for prolonged property improvements? Over a year seems too long.
Yeah, and so that ties in with permitting. Permitting is sort of one of those situations that as soon as we issue a lawful permit, and what I mean by lawful, I mean a permit that was issued with all the steps sort of behind it, whether it's design review or planning commission or specific entitlement, and of course they go through the building inspection process and obtain a permit, they're given a year to construct. And there isn't anything that we can do with respect to our codes to reduce that time frame pursuant to sort of our needs and our wants. The state unfortunately passed a law that requires us, as soon as we issue a building permit, that we have to give them a minimum of 1 year to construct.
Great. Well, thank you, Aldo. That's all the questions we have. We went through all 26 of them, so thank you again.
Wow. Great. No problem. Thank you.
Hand it back to Lauren.
Okay, Aldo, again, we certainly appreciate your stepping up, pretty short notice. Great job. I certainly learned some things, and so thank you very much again. The last item of business I have is, as you may be aware, if you're a club member, we have as part of our mission statement to try to do some things to support organizations, be it the schools or Boy Scouts within the community. And right now we are going to be giving, or have given, I'm not sure which it is, I've checked with Bob Houston, $750 to the San Marino Schools Foundation. We will also continue to present the athletic MVP trophies and the VAPA MVP trophies to the high schools. So we are trying to stay up and as active as we can be now that we've kind of gotten out of the starting gate on our video process. I know it was a little choppy for me in the beginning, but we will move forward from there. Again, thanks to Steve Choi for putting it all together in terms of the tech end. And so all of you, please stay healthy, stay safe. And we look forward to being in touch again. So good night. That's time for adjournment.